Native Americans are defined as people who are indigenous to the United States, who self identify as Native American, and who maintain cultural identification as Native persons through membership. Blood quantum refers to the percentage of ancestor that can be traced to people from a specific tribe or nation. Most tribes/nations are required one-fourth blood quantum for membership. Terms used to define Native Americans are American Indian, Alaskan Native, Native People, Indian, First American, Amerindian, and Indigenous People. Subgroups. These subgroups are different tribes of Native Americans, and each group has a distinct name originated from specific geographic location. For the purpose of time, I'm just going to name a few of these tribes. We have the Apache tribe. The Apache tribe was associated with the Southwest Native American Indian tribe. We have the Cherokee tribe. The Cherokee tribe belonged to the Southeast Native American Indian tribe. The Navajo tribe. The Navajo tribe was associated with the Southwest Native Indian tribe. The Sioux tribe. The Sioux tribe belonged to the Great Plain Native Indians as well. If you would like to see other tribes or want to be familiarized with other tribes, I do have the website listed on the slide below. Derogatory terms. I found a lot of the derogatory terms off of this website called www.rsdb.org, and on that site were a few terminologies related to Native Americans, and I'm just going to read a few. Cowboy killer. This referred to that the Native Americans killed many cowboys. A common one that we do use is mascot and powwow. Mascot refers to their likeness being involved with mascots or teams. And powwow is a term that we use for meetings, but it is actually a celebration that the Native Americans do celebrate. Racialized sayings. I was actually surprised with a few of these racialized sayings. It was actually hard for me to find a few of these sayings about Native Americans. They had a lot of derogatory words or terms used, but I did not find many sayings. So I'm just going to say a few. One of the sayings were, "So what Indian are you? You're a Native American? That's so exotic. Let's have a powwow."
Some stereotypes that I found for Native Americans were noble savages, and this stereotype referred to the belief that Native Americans live in a natural world and that they actually don't live inside of our civilization. Another stereotype that we commonly use is Indian princess, which also we know from Pocahontas. And there is actually no royalty of Native Americans, and this is a stereotype that was created to suggest that Native American women as potential mates for white men, like we do see in Pocahontas. Another one that I found was drunken, and that is actually really untrue because studies show that Native Americans do not engage in alcohol abuse any more than white Americans do. Another one that I found was renegade, and that was the belief that Native Americans are at war with whites and refuse to follow our rules set by the government. The Native Americans have been oppressed for years. It started in the 1800s when the Native Americans' lands were invaded and they were forced to leave their land and reside on reservations by white men. This invasion was known as the Trail of Tears. In 1838, the federal government removed the five civilized tribes and forced them to march up to the Indian Territory. These five tribes were known as the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and the Seminole. In 1908, settlers claimed the rivers that were on the Native Americans' reservations, which made the Native Americans lose a severe amount of water for farming and drinking. Indian Citizenship Act of 1942 took place and many states granted citizenship to Native Americans, but some states, such as Maine, Arizona, and Mexico, would not grant Native American citizenship. Because of these acts of oppression, many Native American tribes no longer exist today. During the Trail of Tears, over 4,000 Cherokees alone died due to disease, exposure, and starvation. Many Americans do not understand all the contributions that were made by the Native Americans. I think the most important contribution of the Native Americans was the U.S. government. Our idea for the U.S. government was actually adopted by the Native Americans. Another contribution made by the Native Americans were foods that we eat on a daily basis, such as corn, peanuts, tomatoes, melons, potatoes, and pumpkins, were all first brought to us by the Native Americans. The Native Americans also were the first to introduce communication through sign language, which we have learned has grown so important. More than 24,000 Native Americans fought in World War I and World War II alongside the United States. Another important contribution made by the Native Americans were youth groups that still exist today, such as Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and the YMCA. Native Americans have been oppressed for years. Native Americans were forced to move onto reservations. They currently live in broken homes on these reservations because of how overcrowded all of these reservations are. Many of the Native Americans live in poverty, have low high school completion rates, and very high infant mortality. The education system is failing Native Americans because of the lack of funding for schools inside the reservations. Many of these schools are also built very dangerously. The dropout rate for Native Americans is currently 70%. Many Native Americans are also unemployed because of racial discrimination inside the labor market and also because there are a lack of jobs inside the overcrowded reservations. Some racial issues that Native Americans face include police brutality. We hear a lot about police brutality against blacks on the news, but unfortunately, we don't hear much about police brutality against Native Americans, and that's because most of these reports actually go unreported. Native Americans are also significantly affected by mass incarceration. Native Americans currently make up 29% of the prison population. Also, because of lack of healthcare prevention treatment on reservations, the teen suicide rate of Native Americans is 150% higher than any other part of the country. Another racial issue Native Americans face on a daily basis is racial profiling. As we come to the conclusion of our PowerPoint, I have attached a TED Talk by Matika Wilbur, and it is titled Changing the Way We See Native Americans. I think that this is a powerful video, and I think it is perfect for the conclusion of our PowerPoint. Thank you.